Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rolldown, the TFT esports podcast, where we talk about everything from the grassroots to the pro scene, from the couch to the crown. My name is CLE, and I'm joined, as always, by future Paris Riftbound champion, Gangly. Are you ready for Paris?
Yeah, I'm ready. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Riot games, and maybe I should be playing a little bit more TFT, but yeah, I definitely have been a little bit Riftbound pilled lately. But yeah, happy to be back and back with my voice after it being pretty much, I mean, entirely gone at Worlds, and then even the last podcast, it was still in like some pretty rough shape.
You were in rough shape, but not as rough as shape as every time I play you in Riftbound because you just beat me up over and over again. It's fine. The set deck, I just can't beat it. But we also have on our show the mastermind behind TFT, the guy who is collecting all of the Riftbound cards in the whole set. Mortdog, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here. It's the day before the set launches, so kind of in that lull of just like waiting for it to go out the door, and yeah, excited to be here.
There's so many things that we're all excited about for the set. So this episode will be a great one because we're going to do a Q&A with Mort. We're going to talk about some of the Paris Open stuff and what we're expecting. But we also had some news drop this morning, like right before we had this podcast. So we're going to have to talk about it because the competitive roadmap for TFT Set 16 Lore and Legends was announced. Important dates, the whole thing on our screen. The You Are Here graphic that we always pull up. We are here. The set release is December 3rd, currently December 2nd. And we are really pumped about it.
And we spent so much time getting through that last one, and it's so confusing to look at it. I mean, obviously it makes sense, and it does. If you like break it down, it's actually very, very helpful. But I am just looking at this roadmap and like, man, we're doing it all over again. There's so much going on over the next couple months. So yeah, and I'm excited. I mean, we're going to break down some of the changes, and that's, I think, the most exciting part about this. It's not just that it's a new set. It's that this new product that came out last set, TPC, TFT Pro Circuit, huge success. I mean, I think like you can say what you want about small things that maybe people weren't super thrilled about, but like overall, big picture, the greatest addition to competitive TFT we've ever seen. And it allowed for incredible moment of cross-regional competition, being able to celebrate some of the players who were performing throughout the entirety of the set. And then also just have this like very cool 2-weekend format of relegation and promotion that made every single game at regionals feel exciting because everyone always had something to play for. And yeah, now we get to do it all over again for set 16.
I mean, I'm pumped for it. Mort, you are not a part of the TFT esports team. So if anyone ever has complaints, you're not the person for that. But what is your experience and your thoughts on how the TPC went last set?
I mean, I thought it was really cool. Like you said, a lot of stories. One of the positives was it gave a lot of people more time to play with Checkmate, because normally it had only been at the Tactician's Crown. So we got to see a lot more Checkmate situations and really explore what that can do. I also think one of the benefits was just getting to see like different players. Like once you get into the TPC, like that was a big deal. And so you could start to make a name for yourself. And, you know, we always talk about how like, it's a grassroots scene, and like seeing the people that got relegated, the new people come in. And, you know, and some of the people being able to defend their spot, right? Like, you know, Soju and Milk getting to keep their spots. And so, I don't know, it creates a lot more narrative around it that makes it easier to follow, which is kind of fun.
It makes it, as a viewer, like just so much easier to follow because there's 3 big tournaments with the same players in it, not a bunch of new players coming up from this giant field every time. Now, the Tier 2 circuit is created for that, and it's a wonderful thing that we all get to do, playing through Trials to Cup to possibly get into TPC next set. And currently for set 16, that structure has not changed. We have a lot of players that can still make it through Trials and Cup to be able to have the chance to get to the crown, but it is more valuable this set for the TPC players. And Gangly, I know you put out a tweet about some of these changes.
Yeah, the main thing is that I think Riot is really trying to double down on I guess maybe like hero building is the right term. The idea is that the players who earned their spot in the TPC, I think Riot feels after coming off the freshman season of it, that they should get a little bit more leeway. And so the primary changes that stood out to me is that last set, the top 12 best performing players throughout the 3 major tournaments guaranteed their spot back into TPC. That number is gone from 12 to now 16. So half the field is guaranteed to be returning. And the flip side of that means it is now going to be a lot harder for the tier 2 players to break in. The other major change, though, is that only 4 players from the TPC will be put into the play-in stage, which is that Friday, that first day of competition, rather than 8 that we saw last time. So last set, it was 8 players from the TPC, 8 players outside TPC. This time around, it's going to be 4 players from TPC, and then the rest filled out solely from tier 2. So I like the change. All right, let me back up. I understand the change. I kind of liked, to be honest, that you didn't get to take your hands off the wheel at any point during the last set. So for reference, under this current system, it would actually mean that like replay doesn't go to play-ins and he makes it into day 1. If you watched the last set, you would know like replay was checked out the entire set. Incredible player, like one of the best we've ever seen in North America, but he wasn't trying. And I did like that the system was built in a way that he was punished for not trying. So there are pros and cons of it. Personally, I did like that it forced players to play the entire time and it rewarded them for their consistency across 3 tournaments and not just having one good run to save your life.
And I also think one of the other interesting things and changes from this is that there's more ranked ladder players in that play-in stage. So the players that performed the best at regionals last set, the group, was those that qualified through ladder. And now they're going to have to fight even harder to get into that week 2, with 8 players going into the play-ins and only 4 from the ranked ladder going into week 1. So that's another big change. But I think the other biggest change is that the top pro point earner will qualify for the Tactician's Crown. So basically what I have learned is that Soju got robbed.
Yeah. Soju should retroactively be given a spot.
Yeah, he should just have the crown, right? That's how this works. He would have won, so.
I mean, after watching America's at Worlds, I don't know if I agree with that. We had a rough time out there.
Well, I mean, the good news is we have a fresh start. And we have the expert of the fresh start with the brand new set, TFT Set 16. We can put all that behind us, all the bad. This is it. This is America's set, and this is going to be the greatest set of all time. And we have Mortdog on the show to talk about all the things when it comes to TFT lore and legends. So, Mort, we're going to do a Q&A with you, but we want to start with something. What was your role in the design of this set?
Yeah, so my official title is gameplay director, and generally that means whether it be live, balance, finalization, or all the sets, I'm supervising everything generally. So, and supervising, can mean different things to different people. Generally at Riot, we try to be pretty hands-off, where it's like, make your set, try to hold the division, make sure it works. But with set 16 in particular, this is something that I had pitched almost 2 years ago now. This was something that came to me one day, and then I can elaborate. But basically, it was trying to solve a long-term problem with TFT, which is that even when the meta was really, really balanced, if you were playing around healthy 4 and 5 cost metas, all the endgame screens started to look the same, right? Like you could just look at every screen. It's like, yep, okay, cool. Someone's playing this. Someone's playing this. There were only so many things that were possible. And so I was like, well, how do we fix that? And the answer was obvious, which was like add more champions, but you can't add more champions without it causing problems to like how the roll system works, right? Because if you're 25 costs in your pool, you're never 2-starring anything. And so that was where I was like, okay, well then what if we have a system where you can opt into more champions for your own pool? That led to that, which got me pretty excited. Then I drafted a version of the set, got all my stakeholders aligned that like this is something we should do. And then from there, kind of made sure that it was going. But at some point, it was like, well, I can't run with this set. My job requires me to be all over the place doing lots of different things. We need someone to just run this set. And so that's where I passed it off to Julian as the set lead. But then have been kind of, monitoring and helping and doing various whatnot, and but yeah. So I guess to answer your original question, I was the OG creator of the unlock system, and then from there did my job.
Okay, so you're saying 2 years ago is when you really started working on this. So
Yep.
if my math is correct, that would put us around the Vegas Open set 10. Can you talk about some of those early memories of working on the set? And also just, I'm curious if there was any specific piece of inspiration that kind of led you to building a system like this.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember Vegas being like a really good event. Like everything had landed well. And I was coming off the high of, frankly, overworking to make sure that landed well. Remix Rumble took a lot out of me. But at the same time, seeing all that work pay off was very, rewarding. And so I was coming off of that. And so I was kind of in my own brain sort of hyped up of like, okay, well, what's next? How do you top something like Vegas? And I can't remember exactly when, but I know I went to our gameplay lead, Alex Cole, and that's where I was like, hey, I have this idea. And he was like, oh, that sounds really, really good. We'd need to flesh it out more. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to wait. So I'm going to flesh it out myself. And I remember like very early January, I made an entire paper structure of like what the set would look like and how it would work so that I could convince people like this is what that looks like. And that's what got everyone kind of going, oh, that actually looks really cool, right? Like one of the big things was using the threats. Even in that original paper draft, which I still have, like Annie and Senna and things like that were all a lot of the 5 costs are all still the exact same because it was this concept of like these are the flex 5 costs and things like that. And then that got everyone aligned. So then it was just a question of like, well, when would it make sense to ship this, right? And this is where like my bosses come in, where they get to plan like the long-term roadmap. And it was like, well, we knew 13 was already the arcane set, like that was already in flow. So it was like, well, when's the next spot make sense? And if this is really as big as Mort thinks it is, seems like the Paris Open would make the most sense. And so that's where we sort of timelined it into that box and stuff like that.
Okay, so for the last 2 years, you have at the very least you ideated this and helped get it off the ground until it was handed off. Since then, we have had countless conversations in the community about flex play is dead, the game is solved, all the end game boards, and you have had to sit on your hands, not being able to say anything during this time.
Yeah, it's been pretty painful. The one I always remember the most was when I did that interview with Bryce, and he was doing like, here's what I want perfect TFT to be. And he was trying to pitch me on a lot of this stuff. And a lot of this, I'm just like, yeah, that sure sounds good. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. I already have it on paper. It's already ready to go. So, yeah. And that's where it's like, because the reality is making a game takes time, right? And like, there's a lot of complexity behind the scenes of like making sure the staff is available, I can't get into all of it, but like, you can't just snap your fingers when you have an idea and get it out there in 3 months, right? It takes time to get things going. But this is something that I've wanted for a long time because I'm pretty hooked on the community. I listen to all the feedback. I see where players are struggling, and TFT has always been a game about innovation. But the challenge has also been that in order to get us to do like 3 sets a year, we've had to sort of framework, like, here's what makes a good set. But in doing that, sets end up being almost repetitive. And so it's like there's this contradiction of like, you need to make it so that the game creation is stable, but you also need to innovate and take risks. And like that inherent contradiction is something we struggle with pretty frequently.
So this was a set, obviously you were the mastermind behind it, right? It was your brainchild. You came up with it, all these things. And then you have to hand it off. You have to give it to somebody else to actually execute. What is that experience like? Did the idea change very much? Like, how did their ideas work into it?
Yeah, so there's a couple things here, because one is we knew I wasn't going to be able to lead the set, right? Like I've got too many other duties. It wasn't going to be possible. And generally when somebody gets to be a set lead, it's a big opportunity for them. It's a big chance for them to like put their name out there and put their feet on it. And I knew I was asking a weird thing because I'm like, hey, I need someone to lead the set. By the way, we're already handing you the paper draft of the set. That's kind of lame, right? Like that's not very exciting. And Julian, I'd worked with before a couple times, like especially on Remix Rumble, and I knew he was the kind of person that like didn't have too much pride in that regard. He was somebody who's like, I'll just do what it takes to get something done awesome. And so he was the right candidate to hand this off to. And then in addition, one of the things is when I first drafted this set, I only had like 75 or 80 champs because we'd always dealt with memory issues in the past. And I was like, asking for 15 more champs seems insane, but whatever, I'm going to try. And it was actually Alex Cole in our engineering team that was like, I think we could do 100. 100 would be pretty cool. And I'm like, if you say so, like, all right. I don't know if I need 100, but like, let's do it. And so when we actually did some of the early paper drafting, we purposely left off about 20 slots because it was like, let's let the set lead have their place to like make their mark, right? That way there was at least something for Julian to like really put his thumb in. So like to his credit, for example, Shadow Isles was his brainchild, right? Like he was like, I really want to do Shadow Isles. It's important to me to get in there. And what if we have this trait that like there's only one champ and you have to get it to like start the Shadow Isles version? Great. Another one of his brainchilds was Shurima. My original version had like Shurima more as like threats. And he was like, no, I want to make Shurima to be this like late game win condition thing. And I was like, oh, that's sick. You know? And so for me, it was more about making sure that by handing this off to Julian, he had room to show his creativity. But also, this is something that just being a professional designer, you have to get used to, right? You don't get attached to your ideas. They're not your ideas. They're just an idea to make the game better. And so, yeah.
I love that you're talking about the, one of the experiences of this set, there's almost this choose your own adventure sort of feeling to it that no other set has ever had. Like you have these early game branches of being able to play Shadow Isles or unlock Bard. And then even in the end, you can branch off into Shurima. And that's just something that like the play pattern of TFT has never seen anything like that before. So it's really cool to see that. In general, though, this is the first time a set has ever had a set mechanic that has been optional. Like you could technically play an entire game of TFT this set without unlocking anything, right? If you tried on purpose to not unlock anything, I think you could, which means that you could just not engage at all with the set mechanic, right? How does that affect the I guess design even of the set?
So you're gonna laugh, because there was one other set mechanic I can think of that was completely optional, but it's a bad comparison. Shadow items.
Shadow items.
Shadow items.
Yeah.
Because I remember developing shadow items, we were like, well, if players don't want to deal with the confusion, they could just not take shadow components and it'll be fine. And as we all know, that was one of our worst mechanics of all time. So definitely, we had a conversation at least once of somebody going like, well, what if a player just never unlocks anything? Isn't that just a bad set mechanic? Isn't that kind of like shadow items? And like I said, there is some like tiny truth to that, but at the same time, my theory was like, look, yeah, you could jump in your first game and like play vertical Ionia and not unlock anything. It'll be fine. But your curiosity is going to get the better of you, and you're going to want to try some of these other champions. It's also why we made something like Yordle, where it was like, Yordle's meant to be played and like the unlocks kind of just happen. And it like, oh, okay, cool, right? Like, we definitely designed a lot of the things to be early and easy to get into. And then a couple that are like Shurima, that's like, oh, this is if you're ready to like really test your mettle. So, yeah, like I said, it is optional. But like I said, overall, I was confident people were just going to want to try things, you know?
One of the things that I had said after playtesting this set and the influencer playtest, and also just, going through all the stuff from the release of all the information for set 16 when it came out, was when I played it, it felt like I was playing old TFT again. I've played since set 1, was a League of Legends guy before this, so when TFT came out, I was all over it. This is not something that I'm alone in saying. It's like, this feels like old TFT again. Do you agree with that statement, and why do you think people are seeing it that way?
I do agree with that statement. I think, and this is what I was talking about with the challenge of creating novelty without messing up TFT, is that set mechanics in particular have always been the hardest part about TFT. And I think you can go back and look at set mechanics and sort of go, well, what did they actually add or change? And it's like, most of the time they're just an extra layer on top of things that pull your attention away from the core. And the core is build a cool team, right? Use the traits, use the champions, build a cool team. This is the first set mechanic in a while that really is not messing with any of that. It's just build a team, right? Like all it really does is open up some more paths to do core TFT. And I think there's a deeper fundamental conversation about future TFT around this, because it's like, we still need set mechanics because they create novelty, but what type of novelty, and how many times can we invent things in this space, right? Because like it's pretty easy to make a separate system on top. It's a lot harder to make an elegant mechanic that exists within the confines of the core TFT. And so, yeah, I agree with it. And also, I will say we've put in a lot of, the things like the threats, like the flex traits, the things like that to really, because like one of the key fundamental things, especially in the back half of development, was I want you constantly evaluating your shop, right? Like I think set 14 and 15 really struggled with this. I already know the plan. I pulled up the guide on 2.1. I already know what I'm doing. But I was like really insistent that this set is like every single shop should tempt you away from that. And this is where champions like Fiddlesticks and Shyvana and Senna come in, where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm playing Yordles, but there's a Fiddle in my shop, and Fiddle provides such a powerful aura that I should consider putting him in, even though I'm not in Vanquisher and things like that. And I think that is a big thing that I want to carry forward in TFT. But again, it's just a question of how. But I think that's the thing I think a lot of people feel like we're missing from original TFT, is like original TFT, you would be like, I high rolled this 5 cost. And, I know there was that rant last set where it was like, I hit a 2-star Zyra, but I'm not taking out my Garen because I'm playing Battle Academia. And it's like, that's not great, right? Like we got to get away from that. And so, yeah, I think there's a bunch of things that contribute to it. But yes, I do agree that it feels like classic TFT in that regard.
There's been a lot of conversation over the last couple of years about flex play and about like the optimization of the game, and how a common thing people say is that the flex play is dead because people are better at the game now. And I used to think that was true, actually. I used to think that like flex play only existed because people back in the day, like the average power level of any given board on 5-1 was probably less optimized than it is now. The more I engage with this question, the more I actually feel like it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, where it's like, if people don't want to play flexibly, then nobody's going to play flexibly. And because everybody is playing a single line, everybody is following a single guide, it just becomes optimal to do that. And I think the question I'm trying to ask here is, there's something here about like, as a designer, you want to encourage people to be able to play flexibly, but you also have to give them rails, right? You have to give them some sort of guide to play forward. This set feels like you're trying to combat that in like a creative way. Do you? I don't exactly know what the question is. I think I just want to talk about that.
I know where you're going here. There's a whole like, look, I'm a smart guy, but even this is a little beyond me when it comes to like human perception and like how they react to things and how they need guides and stuff like that. But the reality is, flex play is dead is a bunch of things in combination, right? Which is like, right now humans are looking for the fast track, the right answer, right? And a lot if you actually really pay close attention to like the start of a set, it's like, this is the optimal line until it isn't, because someone figured something out a day or two later, and then it changes slightly, or until the stats come out and the items show actually it's a little different, right? It's like, but there isn't a lot of reward to be the innovator, right? It's like you get most of the gains by just being the person who can execute on the guide the best, right? Like you don't have to be the innovator. You can let someone else do that. You can let the data do that. You can things like that. And the reality is, part of it is the design as well, right? It's like, if the trait structure is set up in such a way that like, well, it's kind of obvious what the right answer is, you can get 95% of the way there with the obvious answers, right? And so, to the point, like I said, the goal was to combat this heavily by forcing you into situations where you need to make a decision that isn't necessarily obvious, right? And I'll use that Yordle Shyvana or Yordle Fiddlesticks example, right? It's like, we need to make it so interesting that late game, it's not just play 8 Yordle, right? And win the game. It's play 8 Yordle and then something happened and then I need to react to it. And the guide might say, hey, you should consider buying legendaries, but like you could misinterpret that and be like, am I supposed to buy Volibear when I unlocked him? Am I supposed to buy Fiddle? Like, that's, I think, the key innovation here, this set that was really important, and why I've been beating that drum pretty heavily is like, TFT lost a little bit of that contextual decision making, and this set is a big attempt to bring that back. And don't get me wrong, there's still going to be guides out there that'll be like, here's your Yunara Lissandra comp, and you're going to want to find Ornn and whatever. But I think that even with that, the difference will be the good players will be like, actually, I happened to hit a Fiddlesticks on the way. I put that in, and how I got there, that will separate the good players from the bad, which again feels like classic TFT. It feels like, you know, your socks and your appies who used to like, wait, you got there how?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to bring back.
Okay, so over the last month, Riftbound has come out, and I found that Riftbound has actually scratched the itch that a lot of TFT players were looking for. And I was talking to Spicy Appies about this recently, and I can tell you exactly what it is. In card games, there's no ranking system. There's no ladder, there's no LP that you can check to see who is officially, objectively the best player that I can copy their homework. And what it does, because you don't have that, is that it actually forces you to, you can just be some net decker who sees that Kaisa is really good and build that. Or you can test your own intuition and say like, hey, I want to build a deck because I want to understand every piece that I'm putting in here so I can actually understand the tools. Appies and I have been playing a ton of Riftbound, and we're just building decks completely from scratch and saying like, hey, I want to do something that does this. How do I build it in a way that I can accomplish that? And for me, I think I've fallen in love with that aspect of it, where it's like, I may not be a fantastic Riftbound player. I might be a particularly bad, but I don't know because there's no real ranking system, and I'm having so much fun building something that I can understand.
And that's part of TFT, right? Like, in Riftbound, right, we see the net deckers, we see the, like you said, the Kaisa copies, right? I've seen the graphs where it's like, here was the meta at this tournament, it's 56% Kaisa, blah, 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 you know. But to your point, there's a group of players that's like, no, I'm just building decks and trying things, right? TFT goes through the same thing, right? Where it's like, at the top, I guarantee you, the set's going to launch tomorrow. I give it 24 hours, and someone's already going to be like, it's this and this and this. Those are the three things you must play. But I can also tell you, if you're willing to just go down a line and not go, I need to maximize my LP per hour, there's a lot of cooking you can do. I played a game the other day where I was playing reroll Oriana Loris with Freljord, and I got third and I lost to a Singed and a Mel, which made sense pre-nerf, but it was like, this felt really good. And like, this set has a lot of that. Balance-wise, it'll be up to us to make sure that a lot of those are viable. But a lot of people, when they engage with TFT, and this was another thing that's always been important to me throughout the last few sets, is like, the worst feeling in TFT is when you pick a line, you follow like what the game is essentially guiding you to do, right? I'll use the Oriana example. It's like, oh, I should probably get a big tank and like have her shield him to keep him alive and cast a bunch with Invoker. Great, makes sense. And you do all that, and then you just get stomped, right? Like, that's the worst feeling in TFT. And so whenever we talk about balance, to me, that's the important thing, is that making sure when players do what the game is telling them to do, they're rewarded and they feel smart for doing it, right? Like, that's good TFT at every level, not just the highest level.
So in the previous sets, obviously that has been kind of a goal for a while, is like, we want TFT to be balanced and play around everything that's in your shop, regardless of what set it is. Obviously, the set is made really intentionally for that to be the case. But as a byproduct of that being the case, there's 100 champions, 350-ish augments, and all these different things that are going on. And one of the biggest concerns, and I think it has been a valid concern, is around balance. There is so much to balance this set. How is balancing this set like gonna compare to balancing a set with anomalies or the fruits or other things?
Yeah, so on the one hand, it's actually quite a bit easier, right? Because like, let's take a champion like Yunara, right? She's a very straightforward champion. She casts a spell that makes her do a little bit more damage, and then she does damage for a while. We know her build's going to be Ginsu's plus IE plus one more. It's fine, right? And like, we'll figure out exactly how much damage she should or shouldn't be doing and get her close enough. That's easy. right? And we can do that for probably about 80, 85 of the champions in the set that are just like straightforward tanks, straightforward damage dealers. I'm not worried about that. Where we often mess up balance is the more complex content or the more innovative content. And I'll even be honest with you, during development, because I really wanted this set to land well, I made us cut a lot of like duo augments and hero augments and trait augments because those in particular often get overcooked and then they deliver on a false promise. You'll saw we recently disabled Poison Pals. Poison Pals is the Singed and Teemo augment. And this is an example where it's like, okay, well, Singe just got nerfed pretty hard, and the augment was already struggling when Singe was strong because it wants you to play Teemo, and like that's really weird, right? And so nailing the balance on those things takes a lot more thought, and frankly, it's something that we're still, trying to get right. I'll give another example here, which is like some of our more complex stuff in this set. Rise, Aurelion Soul, right? Even Singed to some extent because of his movement and his behavior. These are things that are a lot harder for our balance team to quantify because it's like, well, do you balance Rise around always high rolling him on 3-2? I'll even openly say that I think one mistake we made with Rise, or excuse me, with Asol, is that he gains stacks based on the number of instances of damage as opposed to damage he does. And what this has done is it's created a world where any AP item on him is an absolute bait. You just need him to cast as many times as possible. So his itemization is Ginsu's, Shojin, Nashor's blue buff, and if you put a death cap on him, you're bait. Like that's not great, right? What it probably should have been was damage done. And these complex systems are where, if we're going to mess up balance, will probably be where the biggest mess ups are. I'm going to be doing this Monday meta report where I'm going to talk about like which augments are overperforming and underperforming. And I can already tell you, I'm expecting to be like, here's this really niche augment that isn't landing well, 5.1. Yep, probably. Or yeah, it turns out Asol right now is just undertuned unless you have exactly these 3 items. Yep. And it's not like we're not aware of these things, but again, in the chase of innovation, we try to make these really interesting, weird things, and our team's always cooking. And if we don't do that, we're going to have a really boring game where every champion is Yunara and Ashe front to back, which is boring, and like that's the price we pay.
This is like completely tangential to what we're talking about. But back in the old days, sets 1 and 2, we didn't have like mid sets. We just had you wake up one day and it's like Karma's in the game now. Yep. And the sets technically back then, because we didn't have this like very clear structure, at least as a player, it was like technically this set could last forever. Right. Like, and it could just be that we're updating and removing things. This is something I imagine you probably have to be careful answering because you can't like, represent the official statement of Riot. But I am curious, like, do you think designing a set would be easier if it was like a longer standing product where like set 16 is going to be 2 years long?
Sure.
And we're going to remove champs throughout and we're going to add champs throughout, but it doesn't necessarily need to be like a big mid set thing. Do you think that would actually be an easier like experience for you as a designer?
Yeah. So your question is, would it be easier as a designer? 100%. 100% it'd be easier. And I think there's a lot of other games in the space that you can look at, and it's like, well, yeah, because the amount of work they have to do at each big release is a lot smaller. The impact of change is minor. So would it be easier? Absolutely. 100%. Now, would it be more fun? No. Would it get boring quick? Absolutely. How many months, do you really want to, let's say Yunara is OP, right? Like, let's use that as a hypothetical example. If she's still around a year later and you're still losing to Yunara a year later, are you like, man, I love this game? Probably not, right? Like, I think one of the reasons TFT has been successful is like right about when you start to get tired of a set, even a good set, it's like right about that 3 or 4 month mark, you're like, okay, I'm kind of ready for something new. Maybe I'll take a little break. And then we give you something brand new, right? And I think that is still important to us, and I think going to be one of our big success points. And even let's pretend 16 does become the greatest set of all time. I imagine 4 months in, people are like, okay, cool, it was great. What else you got for me, right? Because that's just how humans consume entertainment right now. Like whether it be a movie, a TV show, whatever, it's like, what's next, right? We have short attention spans, and so Again, would it be easier? Absolutely. Would it make my life a lot less stressful? Oh yeah, but I don't think it's the right answer.
I have to imagine a part of what you're describing has to do with just like pure volume of games played by your most engaged audience, though, right?
Yep.
Like I could not believe, there's the Project PBE thing that Kai had put together where you can see all the stats of players playing PBE, and just because Meta TFT in collaboration with them released it so that you could see number of games played in PBE and your stats, which I don't think we've ever had before, at least not to my knowledge.
I was at 80 games.
Yeah, and I was shocked where like last week, this is not even before the weekend, I was looking at profiles that had 120, 150 games played on PBE. And it actually was the first time that I understood that there are people, and I'm an engaged TFT player. Like I play a lot of TFT. I'm very closely intertwined with the scene, but there are people who by the end of PBE will have played more games than I will play in the entirety of the set. And that's crazy to think about, where you as a designer are somehow expected to produce something that can keep someone entertained for what is, I don't know, 1,200 games of TFT.
This is a very widespread game industry problem right now. I don't know how much you pay attention to other games, but I'm seeing this in ARC Raiders actually. Right now, a lot of their influencers who play 12, 14 hours a day are reaching sort of the end, and like they've done everything, and they're sort of like bored, going, "What's next? What else you got for me?" Meanwhile, all the normal people are like, "Wait, but I'm like 30% of the way there. What do you mean? Why are you complaining? Stop it." And they're having a bit of a clash of like how that goes. We go through this every set because again, there's the Setsukos of the world will hit 2,000 games in a set, and then there's the normal people who will hit 80 to 100. Generally, we consider a set a success if you were able to play 500 games and have a grand old time and like not get tired of it. Anything more than that is unrealistic. If we can achieve that, awesome, right? But if someone played 500 games and had a good time, mission accomplished.
One of the good target, Jack. You're a 500 game Andy, right? You're actually maybe are you a little lower than that?
I did play 500 last set, so I play a lot of games most of the time. Not a ton. I'm not a 2,000 game Andy, but I play more than most people. But I thoroughly enjoy the discovery of a set, and this will kind of go back into what we were talking before about the first week of the set is my favorite time in TFT by far. I've played in the last 2 box boot camps, and one of my favorite things has been after every day, a bunch of people hop into the call, and like somebody like Brosif will give us a walkthrough of what they've been seeing, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, this new thing is so cool. And sometimes it'll be GP, sometimes it'll be all these other different things that are crazy broken for one day, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And it is just an incredible amount of discovery happening with that. And I think one of the things that happens is people are really quick to say, "Hey, this is broken, please B-patch it." And you had tweeted out a couple days ago, you're like, "Hey, can please
just one breathe. Set, man, just one set. Let it sit for a week, please."
Do you think?
Yeah, because Well, the big thing, like you said, is that whether it be common game industry practice right now or whatever, there's just this thing that like you immediately have to overreact. And I think a lot of other games are struggling with this because it's like, can you patch or not? Gangly, you were bringing up Riftbound, and I was actually just watching an interview with one of the Magic guys, and he was talking about how he's so glad that they can't patch because it creates this like, it's a moment in time and like you have to adapt and it is what it is. And for better or worse, we've created this expectation on TFT that like, look, when there are problems, we're one of the best in the industry. We're going to fix it quick. But that creates a slippery slope where people are like, "Oh, but I know this is a problem," when it's not actually. And so like that is a line that is really tough to judge. And even internally, we debate this a lot where it's like, do you really need to be patch this? Is it because one of the worst experiences that can happen for a normal person is they start playing the set, they fall in love with a comp. Like let's say the set comes live and they're like, "Man, I really love Lissandra, and I figured out how to play this Freljord Lissandra comp. And I'm just getting into it. I'm starting to rise in the ranks." And then I log on the next day and wait, Lissandra got nerfed? and now she's C tier. What the hell? I quit, right? Like that's actually a really good way to lose our player base.
Yeah.
I think last set had a little bit of this, to be blunt, is like, balanced thrashing. And so we have to be really careful of that to not balance thrash. Now PBE is separate, right? PBE is like where we should be balance thrashing. It's like we call it binary search, right? Let's make him strong, see what that looks like. Let's make him weak, see what that feels like. Okay, where's the actual value here? And we actually messed this up a little bit in some champs. Like Fizz, for example, during our development, Fizz was a beast. That dude would kill your backline in 4 seconds. And then PBE, we accidentally left him weak all PBE. We didn't really get to have players experience what he's like strong. So he just got a buff. And my shot call is like, when he's strong, he is frustrating. And we're going to see a lot of Fizz complaints. But I would have liked to have gotten that out of the way in PBE. Is what it is, and when, like you said, when you have 100 champions and 350 augments and everything like that, you can only do so much in a day.
So speaking about the augments, one of the things you'd also said is that you're going to do some sort of update for us because we are not getting augment stats back, which I think for the greater good, we don't have to dive into all of that. But one thing that you are doing is these Mort Monday posts talking about every augment that is outside of the reasonable range. What was kind of the idea behind that, and what are you hoping that does?
Yeah, so again, I think if you look, I did that little like contest this weekend where I was like, what do you think is the best augment? And it was interesting to see everyone's perception. And what was interesting is like you could see the players who were like really good at identifying something, right? So like for example, I'll call out Dish Soap had talked about Silco's Revenge was his guess. And it was a really good guess because Silco's Revenge has an incredibly high top 4 rate, but a really bad win rate, actually. It's just really good at securing top 4s, but like it's a very powerful augment, and he's not wrong. Whereas other people would pick other things. And it showed that like that's what I think we want augments to be, is this like, let's discover what's good. Let's talk about what's good. Oh, I think this is really good. Whereas if there's just a number associated with it, everyone's just like, no, but it's bad. See, it's bad. And the funniest example of this was actually Trait Tracker, which for, when it was in stats, it was always like 5.1, 5.2, but every challenger would tell you it's broken because if you knew how to pilot it, it was broken, right? We really do want to keep that ability for people to have these discussions and like talk about what's broken or not. But I think maybe I incorrectly, but I really want our community to trust us as devs. I really hate how a lot of companies nowadays struggle with this, like they're the big evil corporation. And, it actually irritates me personally when people treat us like the Borg, where it's like evil Riot, control, terrible stat, manipulate. They just want to hide everything. I believe that trust between the developers and the players is important. And so the part of this I agreed with is like, look, this isn't about us hiding accountability. And to prove that, I will tell you the things that are messed up, right? And like, it'll also be a preview of like, hey, these are probably the things we're going to nerf. So like using Silco's Revenge as an example, I think it's going to end up on the strong end with that low win rate. And I've already asked Kent to like look at, do we need stage scalers so that it's not quite so good in the early game, but it scales up better in the late game. And so Kent's looking at that for like Loke locks, because we can't get it in for launch because of Loke, but we can get it in for next patch. And like I said, just have that honest discussion with people to show that it's not about hiding it, but I do still believe in that healthy, like, look, if everything's in this balanced range of like 4.2 to 4.8, learn it, figure it out, talk about why it's exciting, where it's exciting, and not just go 4.3 good, 4.7 bad, right? Like that really minimizes the discovery of the game and the excitement of the game. And so, I don't know, I think that's important. So this is just me kind of going off the cuff, and I don't know, I thought it was the right thing to do.
I think something the way you're describing the game feels like it aligns very much with when you're earlier you were talking about socks and appies, and something I always respected. I mean, obviously appies and I are very close. We talked about the game a lot. Something that I always am very impressed by when he's playing TFT is how he focuses so much on the shape of the game. I want this because it makes sense in this given situation, right? And he's never talking about, oh, I'm going to take this because it's like a 4.1 AVP, right?
Right.
It's always like, what fits into my team composition right now? Like if I were just to think critically, and of course people talk about that as like, oh, he's pretending the game is balanced and that's why he's not good anymore, because the game it does have to be played around the broken things. Something I really like about the direction of where this set is heading, and even like the things you're talking about with like, we're giving transparency, but we're not giving full information because we want to encourage the good habits while also maintaining like accountability for when things are going awry. From what I've gathered watching you over the years, Mort, is that it feels like you are also the kind of player, not even like designer. It feels like you're also more of a player that approaches TFT as like, what is the shape of my composition trying to do, and how do I best support the goal of that comp, rather than like, okay, this is BIS for this carry, this is BIS for this one, this augment's broken, let's just play it and ship it.
Yeah, so this is an interesting conversation because at its core, that is the vision for TFT, right? It's that you start off, you react to the choices you're given, right? Whether it be your shop, your augments, and then you make decisions based on that information, which shape your goal and how you get there, right? Like that's the ultimate vision of TFT. But one of the challenging things is that if we want to be a wide game that's successful with many players, not everyone wants to play it that way, right? Like everyone has their own version of what's fun to them. And in addition, to be blunt, not everyone is capable of that level of critical thinking and decision making, right? There are players, and we work with our insights team, and they've done really good audience segmentations on things and like understanding our audience. But there are players that like the way they find fun is seeing what their favorite influencer did, copying it, logging in, and going, I just want to do that. I saw Soju do that really cool game. I want to do the exact same thing, right? And they get frustrated when they can't, and like. This is one of the reasons why encounters as a mechanic was really frustrating for a lot of players, because it forced you to change a lot of your plans on the fly. But it's like, no, I just wanted to copy Soju's build. Come on, get out of my way, right? Or, there are people that really want to just find their one comp and force it every game, right? Is this Milk with his Kled comp and just like that's all he wants to play, And so we have to make sure that the game is fun for all types of players. So we try to support a lot of those different things. But I do think it is important at the end that the core is that if you play it optimally, you are reacting to what shows up, you are using that information, and you are rewarded for it. And to your point, if you're not rewarded for it, it's because something's too broken, or one of the worst ones is if it's not intuitive why you should pick something. Right? Like if it's just like, well, why would I pick that here? And it's like, oh, because secretly there's this other thing that you have to think about.
Yeah.
Like that's where we get off the rails. And so a lot of my job actually is just like calling out when those things get off the rails and like, wait, guys, I'll use an example. The augment I always drove me nuts from last set was the one where you get an echo,
Right.
isekai.
Mhm.
And when we first made that augment, I was like, when is the context that I'm supposed to take isekai? What is the clear, like, I take isekai because this is true. What was that? It was like, well, because it's fun. No, right? Like augments need a bit of like, oh, what I really need in this situation is I could use some extra combat power, and this is the type that synergizes well with my champion. Great, right? Like context for those decision making is important. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, like TFT, in a perfect world, everything should be balanced around when it's taken from the point of least resistance, right?
Correct.
And so that's the thing I personally
Correct.
love about TFT, that it's like, oh, you have the set 7 Olaf where he gets AD on death. Okay, well, he should be balanced around getting him from an orb on stage 1. And in theory, I should only really be playing him from that context because that's when he's intended to be optimal. But it doesn't mean that you're just like some meta slave of playing whatever. It just means that you're playing the path of least resistance, which I think naturally leads to like this cooking, flexible style of TFT.
Exactly. And that's, like I said, and I think we've done pretty well with that in the early game in sets. But the problem was, okay, so you got it from an orb. Here is now your plan. Don't change anything from 2-1.
Yeah.
Right. And so this set was about adding that decision making after 2-1. That was a big goal for the set.
So the set has been out for almost 2 weeks now on PBE. And I know it's been popular because I keep getting logged out and have to log back in, and there's always a queue. And so it's nearly complete. The set goes live tomorrow. The A patch has been announced, has been in play. How do you guys as a team, from your spot as the supervisor, how do you feel about this PBE cycle compared to previous PBE sets?
Yeah, generally there's two aspects of PBE. One is the balance and one is the stability. Balance wise, I would call this one okay. It wasn't amazing. I think Singed and Mel in particular, Malzahar, were definitely something I wish we would have got to. I talked about Fizz. There's definitely a few lines if you look at. I think forecasts in general ended up a bit weak in the back half that I think did some harm to the game that I would have liked to have had picked. But overall, you could still play a lot of lines. You could still cook, and it generally showed the desired direction of the game in the set. So in that regard, it was a success. And I will also note on our team, I tend to be one of the most critical. So like, I'm making it sound more dire than it actually was. I think overall, the Riot team would actually go, this is a great PBE balance-wise, and I'm just being overly critical. So like I said, I think pretty solid. Stability-wise is the one that actually we care about a lot more, because if you ship a set that like doesn't work and is buggy and breaks, I'll call out Into the Arcane, which was a pretty solid balance set at launch, but man, we had to like BCDE patch off of like various exploits and bugs. And that was really rough for our engineering team in December and our QA team. That was rough, right? And right now we're feeling decent. There have definitely been some issues, right? There was the double up bilge exploit, things like that. But overall, like there was no like server crashes. We didn't just lose entire days because there was just some giant exploit on every single game in the ladder. So that's why it's like all we can really do is like fingers crossed that someone doesn't find some exploits in the next day or two. I will say someone just reported a bug to me that's like, at least it's really hard to do, but like that's what my job is right now. It's just like helicopter monitoring socials and people going, okay, did somebody break the game? Did somebody break the game? Because that's where I think we fail. And it's such a complicated game that, something's going to pop up. But overall, I think this has been one of the better PBEs. I just trying not to get, ahead of it and trying to just fingers crossed we can get through December.
Well, I'll agree with you. The PBE felt really good. I was able to play in product PBE and play a bunch of games. Other than being frustrated with Singed, I had a great time coming up with a bunch of different compositions and being able to cook a little bit. I want to ask a simple question for you and for your team. What are you most proud of in set 16?
I think you'll get a different answer from everybody. For example, I'm sure Julian would talk about Shadow Isles and Shurima and stuff like that, or even Zehen. Obviously, I mean, on a personal bias level, I'm happy that a shot call I made 2 years ago seems to be landing well, that like I was actually confident enough in this direction to push it forward, and it's landing about as well as I thought it would. And the fact that even players are like, should this be evergreen, which is usually a good sign that something's landing pretty well if they're like, I want this forever. So I'm pretty proud of that. But I think I'm going to give the like design director answer also, which is that I am proud of my team for just how much effort they've put in, especially in the last month, to make sure we nail the landing, right? Like whether it be Milo fixing a lot of bugs, Julian chasing everything down, the art team polishing things, even like the audio team. I don't know if you noticed, but all the talking that the champions do, like that's just our audio team just being much. Like, right, they're just like, let's just do this and have fun with it. Like that was nothing to do with anything I had, it's like, that's awesome. And so I guess I'm most proud of the team for how much they've all really tried to help nail down the set.
Okay, so I want to ask you something that's a bit more macro, zooming out a little bit. Okay, so from what I understand, something a bit unique about your position at Riot is that you are involved in live balance, and then you're also involved in like the set design, right? And I imagine that those are typically roles that don't have a ton of crossover. Like you're probably either designing or you're working live balance, especially for like the same set. I'm sure someone's not designing and then also moving to live balance very, very often.
Correct.
TFT sets, unfortunately, sometimes live and die by the balance, at least as a player, as a viewer.
Yep.
But as a designer, I'm sure you have a very different perspective on like what success looks like. And I imagine even more that there are sets that as a designer are like successes, but then the balance or the bugs or what, something about the way that it was played on live doesn't quite line up with that measure of success that you had as a designer. I don't know if you want to call out a specific set that you felt this way. I don't want you to make anyone feel one way or another, but I guess, can you kind of talk about that almost like dichotomy of your role, where you have to be able to measure success in different ways depending on like what you need to do?
Yeah, this is an interesting question because it also the metrics of success are also different, right? Like, for example, I think a lot of what you're describing is for our engaged players, it lives or dies off balance, right? And let's just talk about set 15, for example, as the last set, right? I think for a lot of our engaged players, they will voice displeasure at like the fruit system, the balance, and whatever, and be like, set 15, not for me. But for every one of those players, I'm sure you've seen it, whether it be on like the TFT subreddit or maybe you know a friend, but like there are players out there who loved set 15, right? Like for them, it was like their favorite set for various reasons. And it's interesting to see, and that's one of the things that, frankly, I rely on my boss to kind of handle me and keep me honest here, because I tend to index a little too hard sometimes on that engaged audience. But like, if we look at set 15 from our, like, we call them KPIs, key performance indexes, by all accounts, it was a solid set, right? Like certain regions really liked it. I think in particular, I'm really proud of like set 15, like the theming, the art team. They made KO Coliseum really feel very anime. Like there's a lot of success within that set. And like, you talk about being a set designer. I think there's a lot of really good ideas within set 15 that, like, had they been executed correctly, would have made a very good set. And that can talk to, some of the team's strengths and weaknesses, and like figuring out, well, where do we need to get better? What parts are we already doing great on? And making sure that, if the KPIs were lower, that people don't take the wrong message, or vice versa. If the KPIs are fine, but we still don't go, but wait, even though they were fine, what about these red flags? We might need to improve these, right? And so because my job is sort of cross everything, that's what I have to be responsible for, is making sure that we're taking away the right messages from any particular set. And so I think that's the big thing. But there are definitely sets, and again, I'll use set 15 as an example, where I think like the core of set 15, the theming of set 15, some of the character choices in 15 are all some of the best we've ever done. But it also shows that how execution can make that crumble. And, the fruit mechanic in particular ended up being just not really great for the game,
It's crazy how it's obviously not small because it is a set mechanic, but one of my personal criticisms of set 15 was that it kind of felt to me like it wasn't testing you in the same things that a lot of previous TFT sets did test you in. And that could be a balance thing. But like for me, I took PBE off. I didn't play the first two patches. I was feeling a lot of burnout with the game, and I was like, I need a break. I came back. I'm like, I'm ready to go, feeling refreshed. And all of a sudden, it felt like, oh man, I don't know the broken fruits. I don't know. Yep. I wanted to engage with the game that was natural. I'm not looking up any guides. I want to play my first 40 games of the set just playing to explore. And I mean, Jack will remember, I was in Emerald with like a 55% top 4 rate or something, because I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, well, I can't believe this.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by the execution, right? Like the devil's in the details. And for better or worse, one of the things about TFT is that we are a game with a ton of content, but unlike a CCG where, like, if a card is weak, okay, it's fine. You just don't play the card, right? Or if a card is strong, maybe they ban the card, right? But in our case, one strong or one weak thing can completely ruin an experience, right? So we do have to nail everything correctly. And with fruit in particular, that increased it to a level of multiplicative combinatorics that was like almost impossible to really think through. Sloan and I have talked about, like, well, what does a good version of that mechanic look like? And the TLDR of it is a lot less choices. Because, right. And like I said, that's the learning here and things like that. But that's where, again, I go back to the thing I'm proud of for that team is, again, like, remember when that set first came to PBE and like how hyped everyone was and those trailers, like that showed that like we're still really good at crafting the theming of the set and things like that. And so I want to make sure that we don't take away from the success of that, like that's important. And if anything, that's why I'm extra focused right now on our team's ability to execute, is like, I'm like, again, I called it out earlier, right? I had us cut a bunch of trait and hero augments because shipping a bunch of either overpowered or underpowered content that's risky is just going to make the set feel worse. Let's just not risk it. Let's not ship it. We've got plenty as is.
Sure.
And again, that's my job, right? Is like, I'm the one who goes around figuring out, okay, if this is what's going wrong, here's how we fix it. Let's do better. Here's how,
I also just want to make sure that it is clear, because Set 15, I think, did receive a lot of criticism from people, and I think, Mort, you're doing a great job outlining like the successes of it. I really liked Set 15 as much as I disliked things about it. There's a lot of Set 15 that felt like such a huge success. I posted about this on Twitter like a month or two ago, how there were some really cool like one cost reroll play patterns that it was like, oh, you can actually play one cost reroll when you're richer than normal, which was pretty cool because we have different traits that allow you to scale more infinitely. I loved the class rework. I remember in Spain at the Set 14 Cyber City Tac Crown, Sloan and I were just sitting down. We're talking about some of the things that are coming to Set 15, and I'm listening to him go through it. I'm like, this sounds amazing. Like we sat and we talked about Darius for like half an hour to talk about like how the new mana system changes it. I love like my melee bruiser sort of things. And I ended up loving the whole like heavyweight line. Like the play pattern felt really cool to me and actually quite flexible, despite like how it kind of ended up with some fruits being more overpowered than others. There were a lot of really great successes, and I also just really like Sloan. So I don't know if Sloan listens to this podcast. I do just want to give some love because I think Sloan did do a great job.
No, so I'm Sloan's direct manager, and we've talked about a lot of this stuff, and here's the thing I'll say to anyone listening is like, let's say Set 15 is your least favorite set, right? Like, cool, fine, no problem. But at least be able to have the honest conversation of like, what did you like and what should TFT preserve from that set? And then what didn't you like? Fine, great, we won't do that kind of stuff, right? And like, that's important. And this is something I wish the TFT community was a little bit better about, is like, the TFT community tends to be pretty binary. It's like bad, good, OP, under, like,
what?
Yeah,
really.
I wish we could have more nuanced conversations, but
have you ever listened to a co-stream, Mortdog? This is what I could summarize an entire co-stream for you. It's like 5 people all agreeing in unison that one person guaranteed won the game, and then they change that answer about 6 times throughout the game.
Oh. And I'm in chat going, lol, you just said guaranteed, or
crazy.
Trust me, I'm in Froden's chat like going, nice shot calling there, guys, because they'll be like, oh, he totally won that fight, lose. Yeah.
T-Light's predictions are strong sometimes. And I think that's just one of the glorious things about TFT is like there's so many variables. Incredible amount of variables in TFT and so much discovery that can happen. And TFT Set 15 was, in my opinion, my favorite thematic set ever. And I'm not even an anime guy, but it was so strong of it looks this way. There's augments that do this thing. Like there's so many of these different trait webs that are so fun to play around. And just the one thing it doesn't ruin it, make a whole set terrible.
Well, I was going to say, let's flip it around, though, right? Like, Set 16 landing positively, whatever. Right. I guarantee you, give it a week, there are going to be things people will hate in Set 16, whether it be Fizz, or whether it be a certain augment, or whether it be, like, even if it is a great set, there are going to be things people hate in it. Promise you that right now. I'm under no disillusion of that. Like, we knew Fizz, for example, was like, when this guy's strong, everyone's going to hate us.
Is there a set that people like universally agree on as being the best set of all time?
6.
The common answer is 6, and it
which
gets
is
a lot
crazy.
Of credit.
If people say 6 is the best set of all time, that because people were
there's
ruthless.
rose-tinted goggles. Yeah,
people hated the balance of 6. I remember you had like the Morello Kaisa patch. You had I don't know. I mean, they'll all come back. But
it's rose-tinted goggles, but it gets a lot of credit for inventing augments. Like that's really what carries it. And so, but that's what I'm saying is like, as long as we're honest about what was good, what was bad, and what we can take forward, that's what I think is important. And it's also one of the things I've told my team is like, let's say you do ship a set that is generally not well received, right? Like I shipped Set 5, I shipped shadow items. It's fine, right? All I care about is that you learn from it. You make sure that we don't do it again in the future, and like we take those lessons forward, and you do better, right? I just want my team to keep growing. That's all I ask. So.
Yeah.
I say run it back. Shadow items one more time. Let's try it again.
Shadow augments has come up a couple times. Yeah.
Set 17.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves because this set hits live tomorrow when we're recording this.
Yep.
And then just a week and a half later, we have the biggest stage in TFT, the biggest party, as Sherman likes to call it, in TFT, the biggest celebration. The Paris Open is coming up, and I know all of us will be there. I know you two specifically will be there because you guys are both on the broadcast team. Will be yapping a ton, and I will be competing.
Announced? Did you just leak that? I don't think
it's announced.
No.
It is. Oh, okay.
That exists.
Okay,
that
cool.
exists. Yeah.
I know it's announced because that's how I found out I was doing it.
Oh, nice.
So
That's hilarious. Yeah.
yeah.
For sure. Here we go. Look. Boom.
Boom.
Oh, look
there
at
it is.
that. Boom.
There
Yep.
they are.
Yep.
Look how
There it is.
fancy you
Boom.
guys are.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's going to be incredibly exciting. And so this is a big test, right? A week and a half after launch, we have one of the biggest tournaments of the year, which is the Paris Open. How are you guys feeling going into this? Are you excited about that timeline? Like, or how are we? What are you expecting to see gameplay wise going into this?
So I mean, this doesn't actually that doesn't scare me. We've already done this twice before. I think Remix Rumble was on a similar timeline, and that was a very fun tournament, even if it wasn't perfectly balanced, right? True damage being OP or whatever, but like that was an enjoyable tournament to watch. And then if you remember, the Macau Open was where people got to play with the 6 costs, like
Right.
that day. It was like they'd only had it for like 2 days.
I remember that.
You know, and again, maybe not the most balanced tournament, but like it was still a great tournament. Yeah. It was still a good tournament though,
Yeah.
right? And so
It was.
I'm actually pretty confident we'll have a good tournament. So I'm excited for that. And the other thing is that these two events have both been like amazing. I you guys both did both of these, right? Like,
Yep.
And
I was not at
they were
Macau,
like-
but
oh, okay.
You know.
They were incredible events, and it's and this one's even bigger. I've seen a lot of what they're putting together for it. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm just excited as hell. I think it's going to be great, and I get to do a side event. I actually get to play for one, so I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get to do Mastermind, which I've never played before. It's something some of our team cooked up. I think it was Witty and Julian, but it's each player has 4 computers and has to play 4 all at the same time, and they're like running between the computers. So it'll be good
You have
exercise, and it'll be fun.
You have a game plan for Mastermind? Like, what's the ideal strat?
So I was telling CLE beforehand that like I think Robin might pull out like the first place, but my job is to beat him. I get like 2, 3, 4, 5. I think he'll over-index on one computer, and I'm gonna try to just like play tempo on 3 of my 4 machines and just play really aggressively to punish the machines that he's like sacking, and try to win with the 2, 3, 4, 5. That's gonna be my plan.
do you like beating up old men?
Look, if Robin's old, what does that make me?
Yeah.
Because I think my birthday's like what 1883, so I think this is respect your elders more than anything.
I think there's so many of these fun side events and all these different things happening.
Yep.
No, they've come out and gotten announced, here and there with some 44 show matches and all these different panels and stuff. What are
Yep.
you like most excited for? Obviously this is a good thing, but what's like the panels and all these different other things that have been ideated that are you excited for?
Yeah, I think there's some panels that'll be really good, and I think if you can be there, that's cool. I think one of the other things that's neat is Gangly, you keep talking about Riftbound, but I know there's like going to be some Riftbound going on there, so it's almost going to feel like a bit of like a Riot Con, which is kind of cool. I don't know what else. Like I want to be careful I'm not like spoiling anything that's not. So it's like, but there's other cool things there that'll be neat. And then I think the other one that I'm always excited for, if you remember it from the last 2 years, we did that like Carousel of Chaos,
Yeah.
where it was just like the mode that goes crazy. I think Julian's got something cooked up for this one, and so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Wait, Mort, did you hear about the Carousel of Chaos debacle at Tactician's Trials this past set? I don't know if you heard about that. Okay,
no,
ready?
I didn't.
Buckle up. Okay, so Tactician's Trials, the second one, was like anybody can play.
Yes, I heard this. Yes.
You heard about this? How on
they
PvE,
made the wrong lobby? Yeah.
Yeah, if you queue up just in queue with 8 people, you enter Carousel of Chaos instead of playing set 15. It was a set 13 Carousel of Chaos. So funny.
They entered the wrong queue, and because it was still there, they were able to play the wrong. And then yes, because people were reporting it of like nice bug, Riot, and it was like, well, it's not really a bug if you join the wrong queue, but
it's like we opened up Halo 3 instead of Teamfight Tactics. They're like, Riot, are you kidding me?
Yes, I did see that.
That's so funny. Some of these other dev panels that we were announced, the Life of Lore and Legends, so I'm sure that you'll be talking a ton about Set 16 on that with Julian and those people. Some game shows of the Cluttered Minds and Lore Check and some of these other things. But then there's also a roadmap reveal on the 14th. I know you can't say much, but I'm personally really excited to see what it looks like going into 2026 and see what you guys have cooking.
So if you remember the roadmap last year, this is where we were like set 16 with a new way to build teams. That was another instance where I just had to like sit on my hands and be like, yep, sure wish I could talk about that, And so roadmap reveals were always exciting for us because we had to see what you guys like, how you react to even just like the little hints or things like that. So it should be good.
Mort, you remember I came up to you in the airport after Macau, after the roadmap, and I was like, man, can't wait for that team builder update to come out in set 16.
I do remember that. And I was like, okay.
Technically, I guess we did get one. You can filter by origins
you got the
and traits
thing.
now.
Yep. So, like I said, this is all exciting stuff. And I think if you can tune in, I think the way they're doing the broadcast is also really cool this time. So definitely check it out. Even if you don't like care about the competitive side, which I know anyone listening to this, that's a weird overlap and probably isn't going to hear this message. But if you don't, definitely check it out anyway. There's just good, solid TFT fun that'll be there.
Yeah, I don't know how much we're allowed to say about the like broadcast stuff, so I don't want to step over the line either. But I think it's safe to say that the show is going to be pretty. Well, I don't know. I'm afraid to say literally anything. So yeah, just you should watch the main broadcast. You should watch the co-streamers. I think that the production team behind it is doing some really cool stuff, and I actually personally like the direction a lot that they're taking with Periscope, and I think it makes the most sense. And there's a lot of different pieces working in tandem together. Mort, we wanted to ask you to make a prediction, which is which comp do you think is going to win Checkmate, or is going to win? Yeah, it's going to win Checkmate in the finals.
So I was thinking about this, and I think my dream scenario is that somebody plays Vertical Void, and they use some augments to like fast 10, and they get Baron pretty early. Like they hit Baron at like 5-5, and everyone's like, oh crap, and like Baron starts wrecking. And the second place person is playing Rise, and they're losing to the Baron, but then they hit Rise 2. And the Rise 2 starts beating the Baron because they got a higher cap. But then what happens is the Void player finally realizes, because they've been there a while, they're like, actually, I shouldn't stay at Void 9. And they take out the Kog'Maw, they take out the Mal's, they take out the Rek'Sai, they put in a Taric, they put in a Fiddlesticks, they put in a Shyvana. And that gives them the edge they need, and they win with that. And I'd be like, that would be like the quintessential set where it's like, I played Vertical Void, got to Baron, pivoted around some 5 costs, nailed the deal, and like that's how you win it. That would be my dream scenario.
It's like the perfect response to all criticism levied toward TFT over the last few years too, where it's like they did play vertical, but then they got off of it, and that let them cross the finish line and get over the hump.
Yep. And the thing they beat was like a Rise comp where they were cooking, and I'm just come on, like that's my dream scenario right there.
It's like the correct way to play Demacia this set is like you play vertical Demacia and then you sell everything to play Silas, Arcanist, all these things, because that's how you unlock Silas. So makes a lot of sense. And it's just it's so fun in that way. Mortdog, me and you have some beef, and I don't know if you know this. In the Vegas Open, I was competing. Okay, I was competing and I was doing quite well. I literally needed to go top 4 to advance to the next round and get out of day 1. I went to the bathroom in between matches, and I saw you in the hallway. I hadn't been able to say hi to you yet. Said hi to you, shook your hand, and then I went the fastest 8th of my life. Okay, and I was like, I just got Mortdogged in real life. This is exactly what happened.
Yep,
I'm competing once again in Paris. Okay.
Okay.
And I want to request a Mortdog blessing. How does that work? And how can other people do it? Is this a thing?
So you're okay. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. My wife and I like to occasionally go to a casino together. It's just been one of those things that she and I get to do together. And we have this superstition that on the drive there, she likes to hold my hand to be sweet. But actually, what she's doing is she's stealing the luck from me.
Oh.
And the last few times she's done that, she's like hit some big jackpots and she's done really well. So now it's this whole thing where like I'm just an inherently lucky person, and she'll wear my hoodies and hold like she's like, just let me borrow this. So I guess what I'm saying is like just walk up and try to channel some away from if you can, and that might help because apparently it works for my wife. So.
Okay.
I need to come hold her hand.
The problem was that you shook his hand, but you let go too soon.
Yeah,
the luck started to
channel
siphon
it
from his fingertips. You broke the connection, and the luck was just filtering through the air, dispersed into the general public. That was
it's because I washed my hands. I washed my hands because I was going into the bathroom.
Mistake.
Then I washed my hands.
There it is. There it is.
I haven't washed my hands since I first met Mort. So it's worked out for me.
Makes sense. Yep. Makes sense.
That raises further questions.
What? No. Well, we're really excited for the Paris Open and all the fun things that are going to be happening. It is absolutely the greatest party in TFT, just a celebration of TFT, and this set will be on display. Mortdog, the team, all the people will be there. So many of your favorite creators will be creating content, playing on stage. If you're not there, you should watch because it's going to be a fantastic watch. Whether you're watching co-streamers and following the competitive side, or you're watching the main broadcast, seeing all the cool content that they're cooking up, it is going to be an absolute spectacle, and you're going to need to watch it. But we have a thing that we're doing in Paris too, but I have to go get them. Gangly, stall for a second. I'll be right back.
Stall? What do you mean stall? All right, sure. I can't even talk about the thing that you want me to talk about because you haven't even announced it. All right, well, this is a good time, I guess, to say that if anyone is at the TFT Open and wants to play some Riftbound after the event ends, do some like late night games, you guys let me know. You'll find me. I'll be at the caster setup in the venue there, and I'm gonna try and get some groups to run some games after. All right, Jack is back. Here we go. Jack, tell the people, what do we got for them?
We got so many stickers, like so many.
Roll down
nice.
stickers. And if you guys want them, you can have them. All you got to do when you get to the venue, find me, find Jack. Is Emma also handing out stickers or no?
She will have plenty of stickers.
Okay, so find me, find Jack, or find Jack's wife, Emma. She's lovely. You'll all
great.
love her. Yep. And just ask us for a sticker. You could say, I don't know, what do we do?
You want a secret code word?
Yeah, I mean, no. Isn't that weird? Because then it's like, what if they want a sticker, but they forgot the code word?
Then they don't get a sticker.
Nah, you gotta
How many
give them
fans? How many fans do you think we have, man? I don't think we have enough fans that people are going to.
We gave out 4 stickers.
My mom said I need to save her one, so there's at least one.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Find us at Paris and ask us for a sticker. You can just say like, "Hey, do you have a sticker?" Or "I heard you have stickers." This is, pretty standard way of asking for things, but that'd probably do it.
That would definitely do it. It would definitely work for sure. Well, we're going to wrap up this show. Mortdog, thank you so much for your time. I know you're incredibly busy. Your team is incredibly busy. You have how many hours until launch?
I mean,
14?
like right now? No. So right now it's going to OCE in like an hour. So.
Oh. Whoa. Wait, really?
That's how it works, right? So like Tuesday at like noon is when we start our deploys because again we're worldwide and it's local time.
Whoa.
So
right.
So like OCE is gonna have it in like an hour or two. So
that's so sick.
Oh my god.
Well, congratulations, because set
you.
16 is here, and that's an incredible thing that there's 16 sets in TFT. I don't know if you thought it would get to this point, but the game mode now has taken on its own life.
Yep. It's definitely been a wild ride, but yeah, thanks for having me, and hopefully everyone enjoys the interview. So.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap the show the way we always do with our You Are Here graphic on the competitive roadmap, and we're at set release. It is happening. December 3rd, and then throughout this set, we'll have coverage of all the things happening from the couch to the crown, from Tactician's Cups all the way to the Tactician's Crown at the end. And so, gonna be a long set. We're starting over, Gangly. Are you excited for set 16 Lore and Legends?
I am. It's going to be a good one. Jack went the entire episode without saying it, so I'll say it for him. It's going to be electric. Set 16 is here, and we're going to have a good time. So we'll see you all in Paris, hopefully. Whoever's there, make sure you guys come up and say hi. And if not, we'll see you throughout the set. There's plenty of TFT to be had.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do. Share it with a friend because Mortdog has a lot of great things to say and insights about this set, so you're going to want to do that for sure. But for us, that's all we'll do. Mortdog, you can say your thing now. Go ahead and do the thing.
Oh, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.